Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to A Story Called Fighting. My name's Angelo, and today what we're going to be talking about is the news. I stopped everything else I was doing, every other videos I was editing, filming, whatever, to break down this one and cover the news that Logan Paul is indeed, for the better or for the worse, gonna be fighting Floyd Mayweather. I know, pretty interesting. I mean, I don't even know if I know what to think of this. I mean, I see the positives, I see the negatives. I don't know if there's more positive than negatives. I think there might be, but I'm not sure. It's crazy. You know, Logan was talking about this, or it was revealed that this was in talks, but it looked like Floyd wasn't going to do it. But apparently he decided to. I mean, I woke up this morning looking on Instagram and it was all over my feed that, that Floyd actually posted the fight before Logan even did. So it looks like it's official and it is indeed going to happen. It's going down. So I want to talk about some of the things regarding this fight that are going to be circulating around it. You know, how this fight's probably going to end up, what this really means for both fighters, what this means for boxing. Is this going to damage? Is it going to have benefits? What is this going to do for the sport? What is this going to do for the entertainment world, and the impact that these YouTubers are going to have on the fight world in boxing? So let's go ahead and jump into it.
Jake, your brother Logan and Mayweather are going back and forth. What do you think happens in that fight?
He would get his ass beat, and Floyd Mayweather shouldn't take that fight. It's an embarrassment for the sport.
So, Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather. This fight is going down, I believe it's like February 23rd. So Logan, I do watch his podcast. I think his podcast is actually pretty decent. He announced, I think like a month to 2 months ago, that he had just started hitting pads again, and he, you know, was making him feel good. And he was mentioning it and how he misses it and he's glad he's back in it. This was like no more than 2 months ago. I think it was about a month to 6 weeks ago though. So that means that he hasn't really been training until about 6 weeks ago, and he's fighting. Today's the 6th or 7th. This means that he hasn't really been training until about 6 weeks ago. Now he's fighting in about, let's see here. He's fighting in about 10 weeks, which is not a long time at all. It's enough time to get your skills, what you know. It's enough time to sharpen it, but is it a whole lot of time to learn new stuff and implement it? Of course you can learn new stuff, and of course you can learn, you know, new strategies, tactics, dynamics in boxing, but it's not enough time to learn a whole lot. That's about the same time a UFC fighter or a regular boxer has to prepare for an upcoming fight. But, you know, lots of time, usually when a boxer is preparing for a fight, of course they are adding things here and there, but lots of times they're not like, they're preparing and sharpening their skills for a specific type of fighter, right? They're sharpening the skills that they already have towards a fighter style that they're going to be fighting. Of course, they are learning new things, but you know, when you're learning new things, you want to give yourself months and months and months to be able to apply it. You don't want to, implement something new and then, be just learning it by the time the fight comes around. That's not what you want to do. You want to mostly just hone the skills you have and tailor them to the fighter you're going to be fighting. So because of that, Logan's not going to have a whole lot of time for anything. And I'm sure Floyd knows that, not that it's going to matter. But I mean, I am going to do another video breaking down Logan's boxing skills and Floyd's and how they're going to match up and why, Floyd's pretty much going to be able to do whatever he wants. But I mean, just based off the experience, based off, even how Mayweather handled McGregor, and don't get me wrong, McGregor did actually very well. And a lot of people say, oh, Floyd carried him. He took the first few rounds a little easier to feel out McGregor, but McGregor earned those rounds. Floyd just didn't give it to him, and McGregor actually hit Floyd with some shots that no other boxer has hit him with, and that's why he turned it up. And he had to switch his style around 2 or 3 times. If a boxer makes you switch your style, that means that the style you're using isn't working because they're good at what they're doing. So that actually means a lot. Even McGregor had said on his Instagram that Floyd had said on his Instagram that Canelo was an easier fight than McGregor. So it goes to show you. And McGregor actually landed more shots than Canelo. Think about it. Pretty good boxer. So but even then he still finished McGregor in the 9th. So you can imagine against someone like, Logan, if he wants to, he could probably put him away within a few rounds, maybe the first, if he wanted to, maybe just kind of mess around a little bit. I highly doubt he's really going to be training for this fight in a serious fashion. Like he's actually training like he's fighting, another pro fighter. I mean, Logan got beat by KSI, couldn't pull the trigger, didn't look that great, didn't have very dynamic punches, couldn't find shots, had 1 or 2 strategies of throwing punches, and that was it. Didn't really have the ability to adjust. And I'll break down some of his other sparring footage. He's a type of boxer that relies a lot on his speed, and relies a lot on his reach and athleticism, but doesn't really understand boxing very intricately and doesn't have really a good boxing strategy. So is he going to be able to accumulate that in 10 weeks? I'm going to say probably not. And even if he is, you're fighting Floyd Mayweather, it doesn't matter. You're fighting a master at boxing who is meta levels deep in boxing. So it's not going to matter. And even if Logan were to catch Floyd, like really catch him, I mean, Conor caught Floyd, like really caught him. And Floyd has been caught before. I don't think Logan has the KO punch power that he thinks he has. And even if, you understand, even if he knocks down Floyd Mayweather, he gets a 10 count. This is why MMA is so much harder. You don't get 10 counts. So the fight can be over like that because they can follow you to the ground and keep hitting you. You get a 10 count, right? You understand, if he gets knocked down, he gets a 10 count, he's going to be able to recover a little bit. And he's going to play defense just hardcore the whole time until he recovers. And he is a master at defense. No one has better defense than Floyd Mayweather. So even if he did get knocked down, he's going to recover, take a few rounds off, come back and do what he's got to do. So, yeah, I can't imagine he's going to really be seriously training for the fight. I'm sure Logan's going to be training like crazy. Now, it's going to be interesting because Logan walks around, I believe, at about 205 to 215. And Floyd Mayweather probably walks around at like 170 to 175, if not maybe lighter. So I don't know where they're going to meet. And I would imagine Floyd's going to want to suffocate Logan and he's going to want to get him as low as he can. Or they're going to have to do a catch weight like with Nate Robinson and Jake. I know Jake came in at 189 and Robinson came in at 180. I can imagine, Floyd's going to try to get him as low as he can in terms of weight, but it's going to be interesting. They're definitely going to have to do a catch weight, and we'll see how that goes. Now, is this going to damage the box? What does this mean for boxing? Is this good for boxing? Is it bad for boxing? What does it really mean for the world of boxing? This is very interesting because I think there's good and bad. So I think it's good in the sense that it is bringing more attention to the sport. There will be more eyes. They're obviously going to put him as a main card, so it'll bring more eyes to the card that they're on because other viewers will come in, they'll buy the card, they'll watch the other boxers and then watch the main fight. It'll be bringing a new audience to boxing just like they have with other fights in the past with Jake and Logan and KSI. But the problem I have with this is that it's going to make a lot of boxers and boxing fans start to lose respect for the sport because in a sense it's almost giving it, like a jump start. With an event like this. But a lot of the core fans that keep boxing upheld to whatever degree it's upheld at, even though, it is sort of dying in a sense, a lot of the foundational fans are going to feel disrespected by boxing and what they're doing. And they might start to not go somewhere else and not focus on boxing if fights like this keep happening. It's not going to happen with one fight, but if it keeps happening, I can see fans getting really frustrated. The purist fans who are the main people buying the pay-per-views, buying the big events and stuff like that. Because when all the kids between 13 and 21 years old, who have paid for these events, there's a good chance most of them aren't going to become hardcore fans of boxing. A small percentage will, but most of them won't. They're just going to pay for the fights with the Logan and Jake on them. When they go, the only fans that are going to be upholding boxing and buying the events is going to be the foundational fans, the core fans. And if those are gone, what does that mean for boxing? Their original, pay-per-views are going to go down when they don't have the YouTubers boxing. So that's where I could see this going really bad for boxing and damaging it in the long run. So we'll see how it goes. But at the end of the day, he is still Floyd Mayweather. And, you know, everyone kind of knows he's not returning to boxing at this point. He really is just looking for the money fight. So I think people understand that from a money point of view. But of course, the core fans, the core boxers are going to lose respect for him on some level because he is kind of almost disrespecting the sport a little bit. What does this mean for Logan? Well, this is but at the end of the day, you know, he's going to beat Logan. It'll make him even more famous in the world's view. Maybe not in the boxing and martial arts view. Maybe it'll get him a little less famous and a little less respected. But in the world view, he'll be even more famous. Now, what does this mean for Logan? Well, it's a win-win for Logan because if he loses, well, he lost to the best in the world. He had the balls to step in there with the best of the world and train and, you know, do what he could. If he wins, which won't happen, then he just beat the best boxer of all time. He did something Canelo, Conor McGregor, Manny Pacquiao, so many that have tried to do. He's done something none of them can do. It's never going to happen. It'd be insane if it did, but it's a win-win for Logan. And they're both going to make, I mean, I imagine both of them are going to make, I mean, Floyd's probably going to make a couple $100 million, and Logan's probably going to make, you know, probably what Conor made, probably $100 million, something like that. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win for both of them. It's a win-win for boxing. I do like this event, but if events like this keep happening, I think in the long run, it's going to damage the sport because it's going to make the core fans start to move away from boxing. And when the YouTube fans that are paying to watch the YouTubers box, when they leave, well, then the core fans a lot of them aren't going to be there anymore. And boxing is really going to suffer. Or it could go the exact opposite. I don't know. At this point, it's speculation, but it's very interesting. So I'm going to be doing some videos breaking down, you know, Logan's style and his technique and how far he's come versus Floyd's, how they match up, and how I think this fight's going to end overall. So my name's Angelo. This is a story called Fighting. I hope you've enjoyed, and until next time.
My safe word is pineapple juice.